Lauri Markkanen is your all-star. It's all coming up on Locked On Jazz.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is the February 3rd edition of Locked On Jazz. Lauri Markkanen, the All-Star. The journey that got him here. The signs it was coming. The explosion in Utah. Will Hardy's experience is shown front and center. All-Star snubs and points gained Friday for you. All coming up on today's edition of Locked On Jazz. Pow! How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen every day. We are free, available on all podcasting apps. Join the YouTube group, be a part of Locked On Jazz, the community, share comments, thoughts with everybody else along the way. Thanks so much for joining the show. Today's show, by the way, I guess I probably should add in that last little thing that, that whole sponsor thing so that we can do everything for free for you actually matters. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That was really sweet when Lauri made the All-Star. You knew it. It seemed right. But frankly, we probably were less stressed out about it than we should have been. Because the amount of guys that didn't make it, Anthony Davis namely, pretty incredible. Jaren Jackson Jr. making over Anthony Davis. That's pretty big. Kawhi Leonard not making the All-Star team. I know he doesn't play all the time, but pretty big. So for our guy to make that All-Star team and be able to show that, it's pretty great. And really, incredibly excited for him. I thought his press conference, he was a little, as is Lauri, he was a little less emotional than I thought he was going to be. I thought we might get him to break. He really is just a really super serious guy. Super nice, but super serious and doesn't break much. Let's go back. I started to do this yesterday preemptively and then paused. The journey's incredible. So he's from Finland, as you know. He's the baby brother of three of a very athletic family. And is often the case with these guys. They are the third in the family. That's not unusual at all that they're the youngest of the group. He grew up, though, trying to get the NBA as much as he could. He had LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Kobe on his wall as a kid. Then he added Dirk Nowitzki later in his career, and then he started getting compared to Dirk. The Finnish weather, which can have, 5-6 hours of sunlight in the winter, is what put him in the gym. A huge amount. There's a great story about him playing, either it was a hockey or a soccer game, where he scores 3 goals, and he comes back, and everyone's excited. He's like, yeah, I didn't really like that. That isn't my deal. I'm not interested in that. He does get hooked up on a Utah tie. Eric Walden did a nice piece about this in the Salt Lake Tribune with former Ute Hanno Mettila, who's also a Finnish player. And kind of that becomes part of his training, part of seeing somebody who'd been to the NBA, realizing he could get there. His family's super athletic, as I said. His dad played for Roy Williams at Kansas. His mom played on the Finnish national team. His brother, Eero, was a striker for the Dynamo Dresden team in Germany. So this is a group that has 3 brothers, very athletic, tightly knit family. And he really has, in some conversations I've had with him, as well as I think he shared this publicly in some other places, the move to Arizona was really, really hard on him. At 19 years old, to leave Finland, if you follow his Instagram post, there's one post that's super telling, and I went and asked him about it, and that's when he kind of opened up to me about it. he just was really, really close with his family for his youth. That's kind of was his. It sounds like they were just kind of a clan of five, right? Like, just these elite athletes, busting, working, playing against each other, competing against each other, spending their time together. Really, from the conversations I've had with them, sound like this amazing kind of group of five. And obviously, his brother was off playing at that point, and then he left. And that first year in Arizona was crazy hard for him. And then shortly after that, he spends you arrive in Arizona in September, and, by the end of March, you're out, right? You're done. You're now starting to train for the draft and everything else. So you really almost have no time to get settled. And he works his way then to Chicago and plays his first summer league game in a misspelled jersey. Like, that's a pretty good little run right there. The misspelled jersey to the All-Star game for Lauri Markkanen. I was asked yesterday on with Jake and Ben on KSL Sports Zone 97.5, where you can get all Jazz games. What's more surprising, him or Walker Kessler? There's a real argument that some of the Lauri Markkanen stuff is not that surprising. Okay? 5-star prospect out of Finland. Highest rated European prospect in the class of 2016. Had played FIBA U16, U18, U20. In 2016, when he's 18 years old, he averages 25 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 2 blocks in the 2016 Euros. In 2016, in the U20 Euros, he scores 33 points and the game-winning basket against Spain. The year before, in the U18 European Championships, he's the leading scorer. Now, he's playing for Finland, so people dismiss it, but he's the leading scorer. So, this isn't like crazy talk. You go and look at his Arizona career, it's okay. It's not great. I mean, there's these spikes, 26 against Washington, 29 against UCLA, 30 against Arizona State. But then you start to go look at his NBA career, and frankly, what happened to him borders on negligence. And the Jazz are the benefactor. But if you go and look at his rookie year, he's 19 years old. He was 7 feet tall. And you go start looking at, the end of that year, he's averaging post All-Star game that year, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 45% from the field, 39% from 3, and 80% from the free throw line in the 17 games post the All-Star break as a rookie. And then you go to the next year, and this is the year in 2018-19 in which his second year in the NBA, where he ends up averaging 19 points and 9 rebounds. They give him the ball. Now, he's injured until December, and then they give him the ball, and he starts to make plays. And if you, break the season on February 1st to the end of the year, his final 23 games that year, he averages 21 points, 10 rebounds, not particularly efficient, 44 points, 44 free field goal, 33 threes, and 89% from the line. It was coming. He was 20 years old. There are just all these signs about it of, he had a stretch in there where he dropped 30 in 3 straight games. He dropped 30 in, I think, 4 of 8 games. You just don't do that. He has a stretch in that season where he kind of goes bonkers. It's about a 9-game stretch or 10-game stretch, but here it is. It's a 14-game stretch. He averages 25 points, 13 rebounds. He shoots 46 from the field, 36 from 3, and 90% from the free throw line. It's like that. There aren't a lot of guys who can do that for 13 straight games. And then, for whatever reason, he goes from taking 15 shots a game to 11 the next year in Chicago to 10. They just completely eliminate his role for the team. And then there's actually signs in Cleveland and in Utah. And we'll talk about those and continue with it. Plus some other thoughts about what he's done. But really it's a great day as a Jazz fan. I mean, it was really cool. I think we all felt it. I was propped in front of the TV, and when he got it, it was great. Then drop the highlight package that's available at DLock09 on Instagram and Twitter. So super cool. Today's show, Friday edition of the program, is brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai. I'm driving the Santa Cruz. It's cool. It's kind of a hybrid car truck. It's a pickup truck. It seats 4, and then it's got the pickup in the back. Car and Driver gave it a 9 out of 10. So it's gotten pretty big rave reviews so far. It's the 2023 sports adventure vehicle. It's fun. And a neat little way to have like the kind of one-of-a-kind sports adventure vehicle that mixes and matches everything you need. Starting MSRP is $25,700, so super affordable, available in all-wheel drive. But really a fun one. Go check it out. It's the Santa Cruz. They have different versions that, work their way up between 36 and 37, and the limited is 40,000. But it's a fun kind of turf or surf car for you with all sorts of different ways to use it. The Santa Cruz over at Murdoch Hyundai. The Murdochs have been in Utah for over 90 years or 80 years and are there for you. So let's make sure you get the VIP experience you deserve. Email me first at dlock09@gmail.com so we can make sure that you get the VIP experience with Spencer or Jake or whoever we set you up with along the way at Murdoch Hyundai. It is Murdoch Hyundai, located 4646 South State Street, also in Logan and in Linden. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. The hiring market is tough right now, and LinkedIn is here to help you and make it easier for you. Small businesses depend on getting these things done fast. They can really stymie your whole company. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people that have skills, values, experiences to help you achieve your goal. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resume data by using insight of your job post company and their 875 million member profiles. It's all LinkedIn Jobs. Post your first job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free for you on all podcasting platforms and apps. Your second listen today, have you checked out Locked On Sports Today? 22-minute rundown of all things going on in the sports world. Get you caught up to everything that's taking place. All the NFL coaching moves, walk you toward the Super Bowl, all the NBA and college basketball news you can't keep up with. It's great. It's Locked On Sports Today. So go subscribe and follow that. The thing that's important to hear about Lauri is not some, oh, look, they screwed up, which clearly Chicago did, and just kind of in an astronomical manner, but more that because there are these signs of what he was that led him to be the 7th pick of the NBA draft, that led him for Chicago in his second year to turn it over to him and have him make the amount of plays that he made in that before, kind of mysteriously they moved beyond him. The irony, by the way, in his first game of the year in the 1920 season, he drops 35 points and 17 rebounds and then takes 25 shots and doesn't get more than 15 shots in a game again until the 30th game of the season when he drops 31. I mean, it is unfathomable, to look back at his game logs. He literally came out on opening night of the 2019 season and scored 35 points and had 17 rebounds. Took 25 shots and then never got more than 15 shots in more than one game I think 2 games all season. He took 19 against Washington, scored 31. He had 18 against Dallas. He scored 26. That's it. He never took more than 15 shots in any other game for the rest of the year. Like, who was coaching that team? It's kind of crazy. The point on this is not just to look back like, oh, we got our all-star. And what's relevant to this is that there was every indication and sign that he had the ability to do exactly what he's doing right now. And that's what's so great about it, if you're a Jazz fan, is the fact that this isn't some weird fluke. This is a guy who you look back at his U15 and U16 and U17 and U18, and he was completely dominant. And then you go look at what he did at Arizona, it's pretty good. Then you look at what he did in his first and second year in Chicago. It's well ahead of what anyone would reasonably expect an 18 or 19-year-old to do it. He's been 7 feet the whole time. He didn't shrink somewhere along the way. And then you actually even go back to last year where he was thought of as being just this third piece, kind of big, unique 7-foot small forward. Guys start to get hurt last year. He comes back, and when he comes back on the 59th game of the season to close out the year, his closing stretch last year is 17.6 rebounds. He's not clearly getting the ball as much, but he shot 46, 38, 87. 40. So it was there then too. He's definitely on a different role with Darius Garland and all them, and he's not getting, and he never gets, big shot numbers. I think he had 1 game over 15 or two games over 15 during the stretch, and he had monster numbers anytime he does. So that's, I think, what's super important in regards to that with Lauri. Will Hardy, I have one other important Lauri point that just flashed into my brain, and now I have forgotten it. And it's going to drive me crazy. Oh, I think the other thing that took place this year for Lauri that's really important is he realized he was the best player on the team. And that's actually a big hurdle. And then to the credit of Lauri's teammates allowed him to realize he was the best player on the team. And I think that's like, it's actually, it sounds kind of silly, but it's actually wildly important that like you have to have your teammates play along and you have to believe. And Lauri, somewhere along the way this year, and he's having a monster year, right? He's shooting 52% from the field. His career is 46. Shooting 43% from the three. His career is 38. Like, these numbers are crazy. But somewhere along the way, he believed he was the best player on the team. And that he was the man. And instead of not having it for a night and deciding, all right, well, other guys have it tonight, we're okay, he has forced himself onto games to maintain his excellence every night. This is a kid who, if you go back through his story, as we tried to today, some of the specifics are, this is a guy who at a very young age, like 11, 12, 13, was going to the gym, taking 50 elbow jump shots, writing down how he did on the 50, keeping that chart, and then going back the next day to try to do it. When I asked him who pushed him the hardest in his career, his answer was himself. And it wasn't dad who played for Roy Williams. It wasn't something else of that sort. It was that he pushed himself. And that, to me, is what's driving him still today into this success. I still have another piece on him that I've forgotten, to be totally honest. I thought there was something interesting about what the Jazz did yesterday that's worth pointing out, that falls into the category of kind of Will Hardy and what Will Hardy is building and doing. And one of the things Will Hardy has said is that the thing he's most conscious of all the time is environment. And the environment that he's trying to build with this team. And they didn't practice yesterday. Instead, what they did is came together to celebrate Lauri's All-Star. That's pretty unique. So they did not practice yesterday. Instead, what they did was after Lauri made the All-Star team, it looks as though they basically had a party to celebrate Lauri making the All-Star team and one of their teammates making the All-Star team. And the Jazz did a really nice job that when he drove into the building, that there was this big poster up there for Lauri that basically said, all-star finisher there's these sliding doors that they drive through that when they come in. So I think that was, I thought that was super cool to see that kind of commitment and when Will Hardy talks about, the environment that he wants to have, and he's been really cognizant of the environment all the time. There's your example. There's what he's talking about. There's the environment is that, okay, we're not going to practice today because I'm not going to ask you to come I'm not going to make it a burden for you to come celebrate your teammate. We're going to come to the building once today. It's kind of an unspoken rule in the league. Like, you got one shot to bring him. There's a joke, like, to some extent in the whole world of shoot-arounds, like, you want me in the morning, you want me at night. Okay, well, you're not quite at the level of Wilt Chamberlain when he said he didn't want to come to shoot-arounds. But there is kind of a level in the league of, like, okay, let's not ask them, like, hey, let's ask them to come to the building once. Like, that's what we're doing. And so the Jazz did do that. But the once was to celebrate what was going on with Lauri Markkanen. And I think that's, and to have a party and to cherish the moments. And one of Will's slogans he uses all the time is that fun is underrated. And so trying to create that fun. By the way, NBA All-Star Game, the two charities are Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Utah as one team, and Raise the Future as the other. The two will combine $750,000 will be donated from the NBA to those two foundations in Utah. The All-Star Game obviously bringing incredible value to our community as well. So that's kind of a cool little moment there. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by our new sports book we're so excited about, FanDuel. #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And now, if you're a new user, you can go to FanDuel and take advantage of a first-time opportunity through FanDuel and go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Huge Super Bowl opportunities for you there to take advantage of and be a part of. So make sure that you do take advantage of that and you get out over there and use, if you're a first-time user, FanDuel.com/LockedOn has amazing deals for you over there. Check out, enjoy it, be a part of it, and make sure that you take advantage of the latest offer, which is obviously Super Bowl related. Let me give you the little details on it, if you don't mind. It is called, with a fun little name and everything else, the No Sweat First Bet. You get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Download the FanDuel app now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with the No Sweat First Bet. And, by the way, any bets you like are there. Should be a lot of fun for Super Bowl week. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day, your team every day. It is the Locked On Podcast Network. We are excited for you. Locked On NBA Big Board is your draft spot. We had Leaf Tulane on this week. All right, let's go to a few other things. All-Star snubs, I kind of talked on a little bit. We'll touch on it here. Second thing, Dylan Brooks isn't very good, by the way. He's actually a really inefficient offensive player. They actually play fine when he's injured. His plus-minus is cute. Because he plays with a bunch of great players. He's dirty as hell, and he's bad for the game. Like, that was garbage last night. Good for Donovan. So, I just thought I'd get that out there. All right, points gained leaders. Lauri Markkanen has vaulted to 4th. Points gained is the points by which a player uses his scoring opportunities in a game above what average players would do with the same possessions. So if you take Nikola Jokic, he has 18 scoring opportunities a night, and he scores 4.5 points above average. Super high. Usually we have 10 players that are above 2 over a given season, 3 players above 3. This year will be higher because of the offensive explosion, but not a lot higher. So we usually have 3 players above 3. We have 10 players above 2. The premise here largely is that negative value players are much more damaging than you would think. Players like Dylan Brooks. Are much more damaging than you would think they are, and you have to avoid having them on your roster. So Jokic is a 4.5. This is why Denver has the number 1 seed, because if there's only, think about this for a second, if there's only 10 players that are 2 or better, and Jokic is 4.5, to equal Jokic, you somehow have to have 2 of the players on your roster that are better than 2.0. Right now we have looks like right now we have 15 players above 2.0. So here they are. Jokic is 4.5. Durant is 4.1. Steph Curry 3.7. And Lauri Markkanen is 3.4. Pretty incredible what Lauri Markkanen is doing this year. Joel Embiid is 3.3. Dame Lillard is 3.1. Anthony Davis, who should be an all-star, is 3.0. By the way, Anthony Davis and Jaren Jackson have played the same. Zion Williamson 2.9. Domantas Sabonis 2.6. Nick Claxton 2.4. Thomas Bryant 2.3. Kevin Pelton was making the point in a conversation I had with him the other day that like centers can have more success in this league than they've ever had efficiently. And it's why you actually almost have to have a center that's efficient offensively. Rudy Gobert is 2.2. Robert Williams 2.1. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 2.0. So of our 14 players that are 2.0 or better, ignoring Jokic, he's really a point guard, and Embiid because he's the offensive premise. Nick Claxton, Thomas Bryant, Rudy Gobert, Robert Williams, 4 of them are really just centers that dunk, which is fine. That's actually super valuable, but it makes what Lauri Markkanen is doing even more impressive. Just to kind of scan down for those of you that might be new to this, Luka's 1.8, Daniel Gafford 1.8, Mason Plumlee 1.8, Jared Allen 1.7. You can see the centers in here. Brandon Clark 1.7. Bojan Bogdanovic 1.7. Donovan has slipped to 1.7. Jimmy Butler, who should be an all-star, is 1.7. Jason Tatum is a 1.6. Karl Anthony Towns, 1.6. Aaron Gordon, 1.5. Harrison Barnes, 1.4. James Harden, 1.4. Walker Kessler, 1.4. Play more, that number will go up. Dwight Powell, 1.4. Okongwu, who we'll see tonight, 1.3. By the way, Atlanta's the number 2 offense in all the NBA over the last 10 games, number 1 shooting team. So they are coming in red hot. All right, who are the players that if I just said, it's almost impossibly 2. So if a player is a negative, 1.5 or negative 2 or something like that, they're actually devaluing like Nikola Jokic. Right? So Dillon Brooks is the worst offensive player in the NBA. Dillon Brooks is a minus 2.9. Cade Cunningham is worse, but he didn't play enough. Dillon Brooks is a minus 2.9. He is the least efficient, most negatively impactful offensive player in the NBA. When you suck, you have to do other things to distract how bad you are. Patrick Beverley, Dillon Brooks. Russell Westbrook's a minus 2.6. Terry Rozier, talked about so much in trade deadlines, minus 2.6. Kelly Oubre, minus 2.5. Killian Hayes, minus 2.5. That's a bummer for Detroit. That doesn't sound like it's going to pan out. Dennis Smith, minus 2.2. LaMelo Ball, minus 2.1. He's been funky this year. Jabari Smith, minus 1.9. Not a big deal when a rookie's in here. Jalen Green, minus 1.9. Like to see him move out of this. John Wall, minus 1.9. Ricky Rubio, minus 1.9. Jaden Ivey, minus 1.7. CJ McCollum, still a minus 1.7, but improving. Chris Middleton, minus 1.7. Those two are important because they both aren't usually there. And if they start to click in, those teams are going to get way better. RJ Barrett, minus 1.5, but Danny Ainge spited the Knicks by not taking the best package. He actually just took an all-star instead of an inefficient offensive player. Karis LeVert, minus 1.5. Trey Mann, minus 1.5 in Oklahoma City. Victor Oladipo, minus 1.5. Scotty Barnes, minus 1.5 in Toronto. That's not that helpful to you. So that's your quick rundown. Let's look at the Utah Jazz for you quickly. The idea is that you get a high-volume, efficient player, and then you surround them all with above-average players, and then you have a championship-caliber team. So Lauri Markkanen 3.4 would be that. Walker Kessler 1.4. Kelly Olynyk 1.1. Colin Sexton 0.8 is really good. Colin Sexton's playing really, really well. Jared Vanderbilt 0.4. Alexander Walker 0.4. That's cool because that's a big step. Ochai is even. Clarkson's a minus 0.4, which is improved from last year. Mike Conley's a minus 0.7. Malik Beasley's a minus 1. Rudy Gay's a minus 1.1. Leandro Balmero minus 1.1. And Kalen Horton-Tucker is a minus 1.3. Hottest players in the NBA right now. Hottest players in the NBA right now. Dame Lillard over the last 10 games is a 7.6. Jokic, Kawhi Leonard, Jalen Duren in Detroit, the rookie. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Lauri Markkanen, Norman Powell, Steph Curry, Nick Claxton, Mason Plumlee in Charlotte. That's wild. Joel Embiid, James Harden are all above 3. AJ Griffin from Atlanta, who we're going to see tonight, is playing really, really well, shooting half his shots from 3 and busting 51% of them or so recently. He's really good. Jimmy Butler's hot, by the way, at 2.2. Coldest players in the NBA right now. Brandon Ingram in a single game back. Dylan Brooks minus 4.5 and Andrew Nebhart in Indiana minus 5.5 are the two coldest players in the NBA. Nebhart's played 8 games. Brooks has played 9. LaMelo minus 3.8. I mentioned I've seen him recently. He doesn't look right. Andrew Wiggins minus 3.8. Pascal Siakam minus 3.8. Tim Hardaway minus 3.7. Tim Hardaway's kind of been my point of a big problem for Dallas and why they're 500. Tyler Hero minus 3.4, and interestingly, Donovan Mitchell minus 3.3. Donovan's in a full-on scuffle right now, by the way, and he was not great last night before his last 5 games battling through this groin injury. He's at 37% from the field and 31% from 3. Since the 70-point game, he hasn't been quite right. That is your points gained. That is your rundown. Jazz and the Hawks tonight. Have a great one. Thanks so much for being a part of Locked On Jazz.